Well, what's up, guys? Hey, how's it going? How y'all doing? So this channel is, I don't want to say dead. I don't think dead is the right word, even though you could make the fair argument that this channel is dead. Instead, I think it's just evolving into just whatever the fuck I want it to be. And I really want to talk about WandaVision. Theoretically, this could just be like a series of tweets, but I don't really use Twitter that much. I mean, I lurk, I just don't post anything. And normally I just talk about it on my live stream, but things are getting weird. All of our flowers are watered, all of our pumpkins are watered. Ooh, I've seen you around a lot today. I don't think we've met before. Who might you be? Huh. Oh, so that's our new neighbor, Coco. Oh, she's truly wonderful, isn't she? I'm sure we'll see a lot more of her in the future. Go watch Animal Crossing. I've got less than 60 days left. Less than 2 months. Go watch it. That's where everything goes nowadays. But this channel, nothing really happens. I mean, every once in a while I put out something. I've had an Adventure Time video sitting in the wings since like November that never came out. But I don't know. I've been wanting to talk about WandaVision, and there's just no other real place to do it. So I'm like, fuck it. The main channel's basically dead. I can put whatever I want in it. Who gives a shit? So we're talking about WandaVision today, I guess. Yeah, this is different. Very different from what I normally do. I don't know if I'll be doing this again in the future. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. And I should say we're just talking about the 5th episode today. I'm not talking about episodes all the other ones, the episodes 1 through 4. We're just talking about 5. Like, I may mention 1 through 4, but this isn't what that's about. We're just smack dab in the middle of this thing, and that's what we're talking about, because that's what I want to talk about. Because again, the channel's kind of dead, and I don't really have a better outlet for this. I've been enjoying it so far, and I haven't been able to say anything about it, but I've missed the MCU. I'm a huge fucking fan, and I have missed the MCU so much. What the word we use, a stan? I don't really care for the word, but I guess that's the word. I really like the MCU, and we didn't get anything last year, and now here we are finally. We're finally getting something with WandaVision, and it's oh god, it's so good to be back. Especially because I really like Scarlet Witch. She doesn't get enough credit, but I like until Endgame when people were like, "Oh wait, she almost defeated Thanos." That's things kind of changed, but before that, she didn't get enough credit in the MCU, and it's like, "Oh, here we are in this show, and she's getting the credit." And oh god, last episode, so the first 3 episodes were all right, the setup, right, all these little moments throughout the story. The 4th episode is when it's like, oh, we break it, we're now at the other side, we're seeing how this all, right, where this is all coming from, and the FBI and Sword on the other side of the picture. And this is our first episode since then where we have both things coexisting with each other. And fuck, is this, I'm enjoying that. I've seen this episode came out today. I'm recording this at, is it 11 o'clock at night? Yep, 11 o'clock at night. And I've already seen it like 2 times, 2 or 3 times, because I did in the middle of that rewatch the entirety of Age of Ultron. And we'll talk about that. But fuck me, have I been enjoying WandaVision, and fuck, I loved this episode. And I have some thoughts and I want to get them out there. Some of them I mean, I'm sure people are talking about, but I've been scrolling through the Twitters and nobody's been saying anything, so I'm throwing my 2 cents out there. Some of which has been said, some of which I'm thinking. But fuck me, I'm enjoying the shit out of this. And like we're starting to see like her reality that she created just completely break down. And oh, I'm having so much fun. Oh, I've missed this so much. And it sucks that we gotta wait a week for every episode. But that's where we are. That's what's going down. And we're gonna talk about it, I guess. So, WandaVision. So this episode starts off where we left off with Monica Rambeau. She's back. They put her under tests, and like they like do like an X-ray, and it comes back like white. Her blood works failed. We've already set up her as Photon or Spectre or whichever code name they want to go with. I know she's gone through like 4 or 5, including having Captain Marvel at one point. So, I mean, they're not going to call her Captain Marvel, but we've got Monica Rambeau set up here, and boom, she's got superpowers. It does make me wonder about, or I mean, we haven't seen them, but it implies that she has them. What about the other people? Because I mean, why would she get them? That makes me think that everybody else would as well. That somehow the radiation affected her. And shouldn't it affect everyone else? Or is it because she's an outsider going in that like it fucked with her? I'm not really sure on that front, but we get her, Jimmy Woo, and Randall Park's character, and Darcy, which is Kat Dennings' character, and they're all in it. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And oh boy, is it fun. These three, people have been saying since like last week's episode that they want like a Randall Park spinoff that's just kind of like the MCU's X-File. And I get it. I get that because I'd watch the shit out of that. And Kat Dennings, who I don't like. I don't know if I say I hate Kat Dennings, but I don't like her. And she's got some funny lines, and she's got like 1 or 2 funny lines in the first 2 Thor movies, but that's really it. But so far she's been a lot more subdued, and she plays off Randall Park well enough, who's fucking hilarious. So far it's been going really well for her. And now they've got Rambeau in the mix, and everything's going fucking great as they're just trying to figure out what's going on. At first I was worried that like, cause it looks like Rambeau wants to go back in. That's where it looks like they're going, that she wants to like go back in and try to infiltrate again. And at first, cause like she describes it as like torture. And I was worried, like, is there some like addictive quality to it? Like that while you're in there, it's fucking with your mind, but at the same time, it's also like bliss or something like that. That's kind of where I was worried they were going with it, but that doesn't seem to be where they're going. Also, there's like a debriefing where they talk about it and how she's Wanda's holding a town hostage. And have they never said Scarlet Witch before? Like, I rewatched Age of Ultron, and they call Wanda a witch several times, but they never call her Scarlet Witch. And I'm trying to think back to Infinity War and Civil War, and I don't think they do. I mean, the MCU, one of the things that the MCU has been willing to do is take heroes, update them, and then use the names. Like there's a big problem in comic book movies where they, or at least this was back in like the 90s and the 2000s, where they just didn't want to use the names because the names are kind of like the dumbest part of the whole thing. And the MCU is kind of guilty as that as well. Let's be like, I don't think they ever use like Whiplash but I know the MCU is kind of like hesitant about that. Like, I don't know if they use Abomination at any point. And because, right, that was a thing for a while, is don't use the villains' names. But the MCU has always been like good about that. Like, they're willing to call like the heroes what the names are. That, yeah, these names are kind of dumb, but that's kind of the fun of it all because they're still comic books. Whereas like DC is still stuck in the thing where like they don't really want to use the names. Oh God, Wonder Woman 1984. Oh, I like they might use Cheetah. I know she describes herself as an apex predator, but it also drove me crazy because they call throughout it. They call him. The name's Maxwell Lord, right? And that's like that sounds like a comic booky name, Maxwell Lord. But throughout like a majority of the movie, they just call him Max Lord. And like I get right, like, and that also sounds very comic booky, right? Like he's the maximum lord, he's the Max Lord, but Maxwell Lord is just such like a better name, and I don't know why they kept calling him Max Lord instead of Maxwell Lord. Like I know it's a little longer, but it sounds better, and it sounds more of like, even though Maxwell Lord was originally a hero in the comics, don't even get me fucking started with that one. Oh God, fucking House of M. I have read House of M. I should say that I um only like a few years ago. I've read House. I'm not much of a comic book guy. I've read more DC than I have Marvel, but I've read House of M. I've read the Civil Wars, and I some House of M had some good ideas, but it was flawed. And like I know it brings about some big change, right? The end of House of M's kind of a big deal, and that's kind of cool. In some of the like because the House of M is where we get the Miss Marvel becoming Captain Marvel, and again, there's some cool ideas in House of M, but I don't know. I don't care for House of M. I'm not going to say it's as bad as like either of the Civil Wars, which, ugh, God, at least the movie's good. At least Civil War's so fucking good. But yeah, so yeah, they don't use they don't use Scarlet Witch for some reason. I guess they've never called her Scarlet Witch, and that's just kind of weird. Like I'd never thought about it. Plus, this is also where they kind of like retcon her powers a little bit, and like because she's clearly gotten stronger, and like she is one of the strongest Avengers, as we saw. Because again, she almost beat Thanos. So and they even make a joke about that where it's like where Monica Rambeau mentions like that Wanda almost beat Thanos, and then Jimmy Woo brings up that Captain Marvel almost did, and there's clearly some bad blood there that I hope gets explored at some point, right? Like I hope because there's something there, and I want them to go into detail about it, and I'm sure they will at some point in one of the things. I don't know. But yeah, meanwhile, on the sitcom side, the neighbor Agnes keeps coming over. And there's a great fucking scene where it's like, oh, Agnes is like breaks character and is like, oh, do you want me to retake the line after Vision goes off script? And that's God, the tension in the sitcom stuff. It's like they do a good job at nailing the sitcom stuff. So when you have those little breaks of tension, it's just so fucking good. And this one, like there were scenes in the previous ones that I've been like, ooh, what's that? But this one just was like, like yeah, I'm gonna use like I don't want like it didn't literally have me on the edge of my seat, and it didn't like I was like, oh no, like in suspense, but I was still like, okay, the tension here is good, and it's all the acting. Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany do fucking great. And yeah, so everything about them is great, and we'll get back to that. But the kids, right, they start growing up. Next second, they're like a few years old, because I think they're doing like All in the Family or something like that. Next week they're probably gonna do Full House, which I mean, Elizabeth Olsen, the Olsen twins, come on, you got to do Full House, right? Like, especially with where this ends, like he should be Uncle Jesse, right? The cool one. That's where they're going next week, right? I hope that's where they're going next week. Oh God, but we'll get back to that. So yeah, the kids are growing up now. They find a dog, right? Like last 2 weeks ago, it was the having kids, little classic sitcom plot. Here it is, the kids find a dog. Agnes brings in the dog house. It's a lot of fun. but they find the dog. Oh, the dog's Sparky. Vision knows like something's up because, well, right, we saw in the last episode that the world is starting to break apart for Wanda, but it's also like starting to break apart for Vision in different. Well, that was 2 episodes ago now, I guess, but it's like starting to break apart for Vision, and he's starting to see the cracks of it all. And he goes to like the office and they have email and he intercepts a sword email, and then he frees one of the guys from the mind control. And oh god, it's just, again, it's these scenes that are just like, there's the sitcom, and then there's just like just like using the uneasiness, the so god, I haven't read Wrinkle in Time, but I know there's Camazots, which is like that endless cul-de-sac area. And right, the Camazots, the symbol of suburbia, and what like that means, and like the sinisterness of the modern day suburbia. And they're doing that with sitcom, that it's hey, look at these, like, right, gone from the 50s to now we're in the 80s, all these classic sitcoms doing like the fun wacky sitcom stuff, but there's that level of unease beneath it all, and it's just really fucking good. Vision knows something's fucking up. He breaks the guy free from the control for a little bit, and he's like freaking out about like calling his sister, and Vision's right, he's freaking out. Meanwhile, they Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy realize that the thing Monica was wearing was bulletproof now because she was wearing Kevlar when she went in. So like, hey, what if we just use 80s technology? So they send in an 80s style drone. The head of Sword is clearly up to some shit and clearly wants to kill Wanda because he puts a missile on it. And that scene also, because at first I thought the first scene where Wanda's talking to the two kids, because they're aged up to 10 at this point, when she's talking to them about like, oh, how him and her and Vision are having a fight, and then like something's at the door, I'm like, are they gonna do it now? Because I knew this was coming, and I was like, oh, are they gonna do it now? And then she goes outside, she sees the drone, and I was not expecting her to break the reality where she leaves, where she shoots down the drone, takes it and throws it out, and then like confronts them. I was not expecting that. I thought they were going to keep up the illusion as long as possible. The fact that we're 5 episodes into, we've got 4 left, we're 5 episodes in, she breaks the illusion, comes out and is like, hey, this is your one warning. She points all the guns at the guy and is like, there's nothing you can offer me. I have everything I want. She's by this point, right, later on Vision will question like, I can, right, if this all started like subconsciously, that's fine, but if you've become aware of it now, you can't keep doing this. This can't keep going on, especially if you're aware of everything. And I looking back at the first 2 episodes, I really don't feel like she is. It's really not until that break in, I mean, there's some elements where it's like something's up, right, with her rewinding time in the second one and the guy choking in the first one, but it's clear in this, right at the end of the third one when she kicks out Monica Rambeau, that she's aware, and that's confirmed at the end of the fourth one where she sees Vision dead. Right, that's like she's broken reality. We're not in the letterbox style anymore. We're now out in 16:9, and the fact that, right, for the scenes inside the hex, so it clearly shows that she's seeing reality within her TV sitcom reality that she has created. So right, she's become more aware, and just this scene, the tension in this scene again. Elizabeth Olsen's great acting in this moment. She gets the accent back, which, the accent's weird because she has it in Age of Ultron, she has it in Civil War, she kind of loses it for Endgame or for Infinity War, and she's not in Endgame enough for me to remember. I mean, she might have it, but she kind of loses it in Infinity War. Just for what little, it's very subdued, and here it's a little stronger than it was in Infinity War, but definitely not as bad as Age of Ultron. But yeah, she comes out and she's like, hey, this is your one warning, don't fuck with me. And then she heads back into her bubble. they find out the dog is dead because it got into the azalea bushes, which we'll get back to that. She stops her kids from growing up again to like move past the pain. The kids ask her to breathe again in another tense scene that's just all told through the acting, right? It's just like the looks and the holds that, right? Oh, the kids ask her to bring the dog back and she won't. And then Vision shows up and comforts the kids, and all's well that ends well, right? Yeah, they had to bury the dog, but it's a fucking tense scene, especially with Agnes being like, "Oh, wait, you can bring people back from the dead." We'll get back to that. And then it ends with the fight between Wanda and Vision. I mean, it's an argument. It's not like a fist fight. And fuck me, I've I've rewatched the fight right? I've seen the episode a few times, like 2 or 3. I've rewatched the fist fight or the final fight like a few more times than that. I couldn't give you a number. I don't know. I'm terrible with these things. Just the tension in it, and it's all done. Again, the acting's really fucking good. The acting's really fucking good in this. Vision's break about how he doesn't remember anything, right? That all he has is Westview is great. And it leads me to one of the things that I've been thinking about. So in Infinity War, they're trying to remove the Mind Stone from his head, and they're rerouting the neural network so that way they can like, or the whatever, the neurons or whatever, so that way they can remove the stone without killing Vision. Ultimately, they fail because Thanos. But now that he's brought back to life, what if he's not? Because I don't know, I saw the speculation that what if he's still dead and Wanda is merely puppeting his corpse, right? And that's like, especially at the end of the last episode when she literally sees him dead with like the hole in his head. I got that. And in this one, we see Wanda break in and steal his body at like the start of the episode. But it was like, what if, right? Like, she's just like piloting his dead body. But it's clear that Vision has a little bit more free will than that. That, right? He says like, oh, you can't control me. And she says, can't I? So it's clear that Vision has some more free will. What if, right, the neural network, them rewrapping the stone thing, what if they were able to like remap enough of it so that way Vision's like personality is intact, but he loses all of his memories? That's why, like, nobody, like, it's clear, like, in the episode 3, Agnes, Herb, or the neighbor, I know Agnes and Monica Rambeau, Geraldine at the time, they were like, yeah, this is like, we're aware this is like, something's up here, right? We're playing to a script. This is a sitcom. Vision's like the only other one who's not really, but he also seems to have like some sort of like free will. So what if it's like something like he doesn't have the Mind Stone anymore, but she's been able to fix Vision so that way he's back. Like Vision is back, but he's different now. And like as part of losing the Mind Stone, he doesn't have his memories. I think that may be where they're going with Vision. Like what I want to see is Vision try to leave the hexagon, right? I want to see Vision try to leave. And like when he walks out, is he still there? I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what I want to see. And like him get like the outside perspective, be like without Wanda, like he like tells Wanda, oh, I'm going to work. And then outside he leaves, he finds out what's going on. He finds out that he's an Avenger. He doesn't get his memories back, but he learns what he is. But yeah, I think it's got something to do because they did some of it. They didn't finish because Thanos, but they remapped some of Vision's brain, and I hope that has something to do with it, right? And then so they have their fight. They eventually, right? Wanda's like, "Oh, you don't, right? You're Billy and Tommy's father. You're my husband. Don't worry about it." The fight kind of, and the whole credits thing in the fight, where the credits start rolling as they start fighting, and then the credits just break. That's, oh god, there's another great moment in there. But yeah, they stop fighting, and then and I think she even kind of admits that, because Vision says that, oh, do you, right, this could have started off innocently enough, but now you must be aware something's up. And I think she even says something to that effect, that confirming that, yeah, at first this wasn't her intention, but she's like seeing the cracks as well. And then the doorbell rings and she admits that she's not doing that. Admittedly, that could be bullshit. She could totally be talking out of her ass. But based on how the show's going, I kind of hope she isn't. That at least not consciously. She wasn't like, she didn't try to bring him back. It all was either subconscious or, again, there's a few theories and we'll talk about them in a minute. But she goes and she answers the door and it's Pietro. But it's not Pietro from Age of Ultron. They didn't bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson, which I was wondering, because like I know Aaron Taylor Johnson was in Godzilla with Elizabeth Olsen. He was in Age of Ultron, and that was really like all I could think he was in at, like, up until that point. I couldn't remember anything from like the last 6 years. No, he's been in a few things. Well, because I like before that he was in like Kick-Ass and stuff like that. But no, since Age of Ultron, he's been in a few things. He was in, I don't know, I haven't seen Tenet, but he was in Tenet, I guess. So I guess Aaron Taylor Johnson's still doing stuff, but they didn't bring him back for Pietro in this. Instead, they have the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, which I don't know where they're going with that. That's the one thing where it's like, what? Like, is that multiverse stuff now? Did they just, because I mean, within the universe of the show, Darcy makes the comment that they recast Pietro because, of course, Wu, Darcy, and Monica Rambeau are stand-ins for us, the audience. Like, because WandaVision is a show within a show, in the same way we're theorizing that I'm right, like I'm theorizing right now, they're theorizing within the show, which is a very interesting take on things that you don't see that often, or at least if you do, it's not handled that well. The only other example I can think of that did something like this, and fuck me that I know this, is the show Sherlock. You know, the BBC show with Benedict Cumberbatch. At one point, after Sherlock dies in that show, I would say spoilers, but nobody gives a shit. After Benedict Cumberbatch dies in that show, in the next they bring him back at the end of like the second, he dies in the second season. Same episode, they bring him back. Next episode, it's like, hey, how'd he die? And they have a bunch of characters within the show speculating how he came back. The thing is, though, the reason that it's done fucking terribly there, because the entire, like the whole thing about like people speculating like how he came back is meant to make fun of the fans. That's the fucking problem with that, is it's meant to like address audience criticism of the show. It's meant to make fun of the fans. Here, it's just people speculating on the show, right? It's that sort of meta narrative speculating as what's going on. They are stand-ins for us as the audience, because as we're figuring out stuff, they're figuring out stuff. I don't know. I think it's done well enough. Like I said, better than Sherlock did it, which was terrible. Utterly, it's fucking offensive. It's honestly the way Sherlock did it and fucking Stephen Moffat. It's fucking offensive. It's ugh. But yeah, so they're the fan speculation. So yeah, Pietro's back, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I mean, because I wanted Pietro to come back. They were setting right, because in the third episode, she mentions her brother, which is the first time they have mentioned Pietro since his death in Age of Ultron. I mean, yes, Hawkeye's youngest kid has the middle name Pietro, but it's not like they call him that, you know? Pietro is just, he's never brought up in Infinity War. He's not brought up in Civil War. He's definitely not brought up in Endgame. At least I don't. No, they don't. I mean, they bring up Vision. like the end with Wanda and Hawkeye, which that's a whole. I wonder how they're going to explain that, because at the end there's kind of like this. At the end of Endgame, there's kind of like this sense of closure with Wanda and Hawkeye about like all the right about the death of Vision and Stark and everyone they lost along the way. Oh wait, it's Vision and Natasha. Stark, that's somebody else's problem. No, it's Vision and Natasha, and it's them talking about like the people they lost, and it's a good scene. And this takes place 3 weeks after that. So either that scene's a lie or something else has happened. But yeah, so I don't know what they're gonna. It's weird. I'm sure we'll figure it out. I don't know. They're gonna. I mean, we've seen like this meta casting before. J.K. Simmons came back as J. Jonah Jameson, and that was really fucking cool. Yes, the Quicksilver in X-Men was really fucking cool. And even though X-Men Apocalypse was a bad movie, the scene with Quicksilver in it was still. I mean, it's not as good as the first one, but it's still pretty decent, all things considered. And people just didn't like Pietro in Age of Ultron. I think, I don't know. So, Red over at Overly Sarcastic Productions did a trope talk on plot twists. And in her trope talk on plot twists, for examples of a bad twist, I don't know why I use the air quotes, was Age of Ultron in the death of Pietro. And I agree with her, even though I don't know. I like Age of Ultron, I should say. I think it gets too much hate. And I personally consider it the linchpin of the MCU. That it's the one movie where everything connects. I know for some people that ruins the movie. And I just watched it earlier today, and there are definitely some scenes where it's like the Thor stuff. The Thor stuff is just kind of eesh. And it's clear Ragnarok was a very different movie at the time. At least they had very different ideas of what Ragnarok was going to be. And instead, Ragnarok turned out good because the one they're pitching doesn't really seem that good. I mean, technically, it still lines up because Heimdall dies and Asgard is destroyed. Ragnarok happens. Hela comes back. But it's still, they're pitching a very different movie there. I like her Red's suggestion of having Pietro live, having them be on opposite sides during the Civil War, having Wanda getting snapped while he lives, and then she comes back and he's 5 years older than her. That's so much better of an idea than just killing him off because Fox used him and did a cooler scene, admittedly. But yeah, no, her idea is better. But you know, I'm working with what we have, and I will still stand by Age of Ultron as a good movie. I just rewatched it today, and it's still, God, there's so many good things about it. It really, like, a lot of people hated it when it came out, but now after Infinity War, after Civil War, after Infinity War, after Endgame, it sets up everything, and everything set up in that movie gets paid off in Endgame. I know that makes Age of Ultron a weaker movie technically, at least especially at the time. But now that because the MCU is it's like a TV show, right? It's a bunch of, instead of doing episodes, it's doing movies. But they're still episode, right? Age of Ultron is the turning point where they go from movies that all like lead up to one thing to just episodes in one grander movie thing that had its season 1 finale in Endgame. What a good fucking finale that is. So fucking good. And I need to rewatch it again, but the last time I rewatched anytime I rewatch Endgame, I have to watch Infinity Wars again, and that's like 5.5 hours. It's admittedly a very quick 5.5 hours. Endgame's the only 3-hour movie that does not feel like 3 hours. Like, I remember seeing the third Pirates of the Caribbean in theaters, which is a 3-hour movie. Oh my god, does that fucking drag. Endgame, nah, it doesn't. I don't even know if it feels like 2. It's over like that. It's so fucking good. Pietro died in Age of Ultron, and as I was rewatching Age of Ultron, something hit me. Right at the start of Wanda and Vision's fight in this episode, Vision's like, "Oh, it's not every day you get and bury a dog in the same day." The dog is Pietro. Or at least the dog, because there's like that the scene of her like talking to the kids about like, "Oh, just bring him back." And right, she's like, "Oh, you can't always, right, there are rules to life. You can't just bring back dead people." I know it's supposed to be hypocritical because she brought back Vision, but it's her talking about Pietro. The dog is Pietro. They get it in the episode, right? Pietro shows up in Age of Ultron. It dies by the end of the episode. Pietro dies in Age of Ultron, right? And while she can bring it back theoretically, she doesn't. And it's all building to her actually bringing back Pietro. Now, because yeah, Pietro is the dog is an entire metaphor for Pietro. That's how this is all going. That's what's going on here. At least that's how I'm choosing to interpret it. Is that that's what it's supposed to be. And I don't know. I've rewatched it several times, and that's just where I keep getting at. What does that make Agnes now? I don't know, because again, Agnes comes. I mean, is Agnes our Hawkeye? Because she holds the dead dog's body and like is surprised that she can bring back people from the dead. Is she our Hawkeye? Because I don't know. I've seen a lot of speculation going both ways that Agnes, because Agnes is based on Agatha Harkness, who is like the Avengers babysitter, and in the comics she babysat Wanda's kids for a while before they were revealed to be demon babies because of fucking course comics. So that's what Agnes is based on. But we've seen and she's a hero. She was Wanda's magic teacher, but we've seen the MCU like play around with things before. Like the most interesting thing about Captain Marvel was that they didn't make the Skrulls villains. Like that was genuinely like, oh, that was for once that was a twist I did not see coming. Just because I'm so used to Secret Wars and the Skrulls being villains. Where's that going to go? I don't know. Of course, we are now getting a Secret Wars show. So are we just going to get another sect of Skrulls that are villains? My guess, they're going to bring in the Dire Wraiths. The Skrulls are good guys, but the Dire Wraiths are the villains. Because the Dire Wraiths are kind of like an offset of Skrulls. You heard it here first. I'm calling it. Secret Wars is the Dire Wraiths. And the Super Skrull is going to be like a magic Dire Wraith thing. You called it here. It's the MCU. They've dug up obscure things in the past. I think she'd be a hero, but she could be a villain. I mean, the speculation is that she's Mephisto or she's working for Mephisto. I don't know. With the whole demon babies thing, I've read Hess of M and I've read Avengers Disassembled. The whole demon baby thing is kind of dumb. And I kind of hope they don't bring in the whole demon babies thing. I mean, right now we're seeing them age rapidly. Like she was pregnant and like for the entire span of like a 22-minute sitcom. And now they're age like 10 in the span of a single episode. And so are they demon babies? I don't know. I mean, I kind of hope not, because the MCU, one of the things they're really good at is taking what works in a comic and what doesn't work. That's why Civil War is a terrible fucking comic. Civil War is a fucking garbage comic. I'm not going to say it's one of the worst things ever made or anything. Not even close. Again, who am I to judge? I've read like, I don't know, like a few dozen comics, so I'm not one to judge. But Civil War is fucking terrible. And the movie is like 1,000 times better. And it's it's MCU top 3. It's better than Winter Soldier. There's my controversial take. Civil War is better than Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier's overrated. I'm going to say that right here, right now. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It's good. But Civil War is so fucking good. Like so much better than it has any right to be. It's everything you want. But yeah, the comic sucks. So maybe they'll take some of the good aspects of House of M, like some of the creative ideas, and maybe they'll do something interesting with that, but also leave behind some of the bullshit. Like, I really don't want Wanda to like disassemble the Avengers on a literal level. That would kind of suck. I mean, is this how we introduce the multiverse? Because we know this ties into the new Doctor Strange. Is this how we introduce mutants? Both are theoretically possible. Is Mephisto at work? Maybe. I kind of hope not. I like the idea that it's all Wanda, right? Like at the end of the last episode, it's all Wanda. But something brought Pietro back, and maybe, I don't know, I've seen speculation that Pietro is Mephisto. Like Mephisto took form of Pietro because Wanda's clearly breaking down and that he needs more control over her. I don't know. I guess I'll never look past One More Day. I guess that's why I will forever hate Mephisto. Like, yeah, I know he helps out in Infinity Gauntlet. Is that the book? The first Infinity. Because Infinity War is the second one. But the first one is Infinity Gauntlet, and I know he helps out in that one because Thanos is a simp who is trying to court death, and Mephisto is helping out the Avengers because he doesn't like Thanos, and he's helping Eros or Star Fox. Comics are weird, you know. Now the other thing I gotta say is Ultron. She brought Wanda's powers come from the Mind Stone. Pietro's powers come from the Mind Stone. Vision had the Mind Stone in his head. If she's bringing all this stuff back, it is totally possible that as technology expands inside her bubble, her hexagon, that through her subconscious, she could bring Ultron back, which has all sorts of implications. That's that, because we know, we're spoiling the entire episode, but farther spoilers, there was a thing that the guy who's playing Pietro in this WandaVision was listed in the credits on like IMDb or on Google or something like that, and like the cast, and people were like, oh, maybe that's a mistake, maybe they meant Aaron Taylor Johnson. Now we know they meant this guy. And we see James Spader listed in there, so Ultron's somewheres in here. Definitely somewheres, but I think she's gonna subconsciously, kind of like how she brought back Pietro, assuming she's the one who did it, she's gonna bring back Ultron. I don't know what further implications that will have, but I think that's where we're going, because Ultron's a cool villain. I like him. I don't know. I know a lot of people think Marvel villains are unmemorable and boring, and they're totally right, because a lot of them are, but there are also some good ones, right? We all like Loki's good, but so is Ultron. Best one is my favorite is still Zemo, and I guess Thanos. Thanos is the protagonist of Infinity War, but Zemo doesn't get enough credit. Zemo's really he's really simple, but he's really fucking good. But okay, another story for another day. Ultron is a lot of fun. Like he's a robot, but he's also very human, and he's very much like Stark, and he hates that about himself. Because he's very human, and he kind of doesn't want to admit it. And James Spader does a great voice, and it'd be cool. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, maybe it'll just be like a small cameo, like the commercials. Like the commercial in this one is Lagos paper towels, because Lagos was in the beginning of Civil War for the mistakes you didn't mean to make, which of course I had to explain that to like 2 people today. Because they completely forgot about that. But yeah, I think Ultron's coming back I don't think he's behind this. I think when they got rid of Ultron at the end of Age of Ultron, that was it. but somehow, some way, Ultron's showing up in this. Somehow, some way, we'll see. We shall see. It could totally be a commercial. And then there's that whole thing about like, oh, how there's going to be some sort of like big cameo in this, equivalent to what happened in The Mandalorian. I don't know. I haven't seen The Mandalorian. I know exactly what people are talking about because people don't shut their fucking mouths on Twitter and spoiled it within like 10 minutes of the episode coming out. But supposedly there's some big cameo, and people have had a bunch of predictions from like Doctor Strange to Ultron. I kind of figured Pietro was going to come back anyways. And yeah, I hope next week when they do Full House, he's like the cool guy, Uncle Jesse sort of character, right? I hope that's how they play him, because that could be a lot of fun. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And then there's a Halloween episode at some point that oh god, getting those classic costumes back, that's gonna be so much fucking fun. But I don't know. I just wanted to talk about this. I know we mostly just recapped the episode and I said a few things, but I've been wanting to talk about this and I've got nothing better to do. Okay, I have tons of things better to do, but we're doing this anyways. Go watch me stream Animal Crossing. We're getting up to some weird shit there.
Oh, if it isn't our dear cousin Pietro! Oh, cousin Pietro! It's so good to get a letter from you! The king of craft. Oh, boy. Oh, I miss Pietro so much. Cousin Pietro, let's go bowling. I do hope he comes and visits one of these days. Ha 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 ha. When I first saw the ocean, I just thought, wow, that's big. But then I thought of this recipe, as they say. Sharing is caring, so here you go. I hope it'll be honored to craft it. The king of craft, your cousin Pietro. Oh, cousin Pietro. It's so good to hear from him. He really should come by and visit sometime. Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful?
And yeah, I don't know if we'll do this again next week. I don't know if we'll talk about any of the previous episodes. I don't even know if this is going to come out. I think I just wanted the chance to vent a little bit. But I'm enjoying this shit. God, it's just good to have the MCU back, man. I've missed it. I've missed it so much, and I'm having so much fun. And I found out today that Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought they were holding it until after Black Widow comes out. No, it comes out like March 16th. Like WandaVision ends at episode 9. There's a week off, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier starts. Fuck. I just found that out today. Wow. And then, of course, presumably at the end of that, we're supposed to get Black Widow in May. But that's not happening because of quarantine. I wish they would just fucking put it on Disney Plus like they're doing with that Raya the Last Dragon thing, or I didn't see Mulan. Fuck Mulan. But I wish they would just put it on Disney Plus, because we're not done with this quarantine anytime soon. But pop culture, media, no, we're not done. We're gonna see this for years. I know some TV shows have already addressed it. I think Sex and the City is gonna be doing an episode and their reboot about it. But like, ooh, yeah, no, thank you. But hey, the MCU doesn't have to mention it, because again, they're in 2023 right now. They're 2 years ahead of us. Yeah, they wrote them well, except for I think Spider-Man's in 2024. I think that's even like a year ahead of that, or something like that. I don't know. Again, this is 3 weeks after the events of Endgame here in WandaVision. But yeah, and yeah, so I don't know if we're doing this again. I probably not. But hey, this channel's dead, so I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. And if I want to do another one of these, I'll do another one of these. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to end off for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time. Peace.